GOP presidential candidate Nikki Haley has surpassed Florida Governor Ron DeSantis in 538's national polling average for the first time in the 2024 campaign. Nathaniel Rakik, a senior editor and senior elections analyst for the polling analysis website, announced Haley's move into second place Tuesday on X, formerly known as Twitter. He noted caveats about the confidence interval of polls and multiple ways that exist to calculate a polling average. Still, 538's average has the former United Nations ambassador ahead. This marks the first time in the 2024 election that Haley has come in second in the pollster's average. It also highlights her rise in the polls that has taken place over the last few months. Haley, who is also the former governor of South Carolina, has been gaining momentum since August with fuel from multiple strong primary debate performances. DeSantis had held second place in the GOP field throughout most of the race, and at one time was closely behind former President Trump for the lead, but he has dropped over the months from above 30% nationally to low double digits. Haley has also taken second place in the Hill/Decision Desk headquarters national political average, having held it since mid-December. She and DeSantis are statistically tied in the Real Clear Politics polling average. Trump is still the clear frontrunner for the Republican nomination, holding a 50-point lead in 538's national average. He also had significant leads in the early voting states of Iowa and New Hampshire, but Haley has been gaining in these states also, especially in the latter. Haley and DeSantis are set to face off in the debate hosted by CNN in Iowa next week ahead of the Hawkeye State's January 15th caucuses. Trump will skip the debate again and instead participate in the town hall hosted by Fox News. This is probably the least surprising news story I've seen in a while. I mean, it's like every day I wake up, I see Haley increase here, Haley increase there. And of course, it doesn't mean anything because Trump's lead is still in almost every poll that's not from New Hampshire, 10 points, 15, 20. You saw the national polling average has him at 50. And I maintain that I do not believe in the year 2024 that the Republican Party will nominate a woman for president. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I think in 30, 40, 50 years, they might, be more open to that, but I just don't see it. And really, I don't see them nominating anyone who's not Trump for president unless he goes to jail or otherwise, gets incapacitated in some way that prevents him from running for office. But this is really less a sign of Haley doing well than an indictment on DeSantis, because it might seem like a faraway, distant time ago, but there were polls from 2022 that showed DeSantis ahead of Trump, that showed him as the person everybody was going to be worried about, and he's turned into a complete, absolute sideshow of a campaign. You've got this guy who resets his campaign after getting in the race and amid falling polling numbers, some debate performances that really are not memorable. Just an extremely hollow, hot air waste of time. I truly, Palin said earlier this year, excuse me, last year rather. I'm sorry, we're only a few days into this year, but Palin said last year that she believed DeSantis would have been better off if he had just stayed governor, waited to run, at some later point, 2028, whatever. And seeing him falling and tanking like this, just this, no one, I'm inclined to agree with her. And I thought she was just saying that as someone that was obviously as pro-Trump as you can get, but his campaign, no one else in this race on the Democratic or Republican side has started from up here and just the only person who saw a significant polling rise and like now they're at 5, 2, 3% is like somebody like Ramaswamy, but he started the race at those numbers. He's just back to those numbers. He had a brief surge and then was over after like 2 months. Haley seems to be gaining and gaining and gaining, and it's so funny because it's like you wonder if voting didn't start until, let's say, April or May, would she be able to actually be competitive with Trump? it's just one of those things you start to think about, like, hey, maybe if these debates had been held earlier in the year, maybe if there had been more of them, it's just one of those things where you wonder how far along would it have made a difference. But I really enjoy the watching the buffoonery of the DeSantis campaign and watching Haley talk about her momentum, because in a few months it's all going to be wrapped up for Trump, and then all of this stuff is the only thing Haley's going to have left is trying to get a VP nomination. So, which I don't think he's going to pick her, as I've said before. But it's fascinating to watch DeSantis's campaign crumble so much that this governor, who a lot of people didn't even know until a few months ago, is now the second place person against Trump. Will she win? We already know the answer. No, 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 no. But is she impressive for taking out the guy who was supposed to be the new Trump, the much younger, better Trump? Absolutely. It's quite the accomplishment. It's also it's a mixture of an accomplishment on her part and embarrassment on DeSantis's part. So we'll see how much further she goes before Iowa takes place next week.